Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Dana and Tawana and Shannon and Devon. Good morning from Bahrain. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Pamela over on YouTube. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, Dr. Byron, Reverend Angie. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Please come on into the room. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Come on into the room. Good morning. Good morning. Y'all, somebody please remind me to order the stand for the phone this week. Please, please just inbox me, put on my timeline, order your phone stand. Like, just please remind me. I keep forgetting it and I come up on Sunday and I'm like, damn, I done forgot to order the phone stand from when it broke a few weeks ago, and I just keep forgetting. So please, again, bear with me as I'm moving this phone around. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Come on in to the space. Some announcements this morning. Good morning, Erica and Rochelle. Good morning. Inclement weather. Ashe, we appreciate you waking up this early on the West Coast, Dr. Byron. Thank you and pray that you are safe in the inclement weather. Good morning, Confidence. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Kanita and Baranda. Good morning. Good morning to each of you. If I haven't said your name, it's just because I don't see it yet on my end. But please receive this good morning, these well wishes. Good morning to all of those that are watching on YouTube. I see that our subscribers have jumped up by 100. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing to the Pink Robe Chronicles YouTube channel. And if you've not subscribed, I invite you to do so today, Ashe. You can also watch their live and you can also watch our previous live streams. A few announcements this week. First of all, I want to say thank you to those of you who listened to my interview on the Clay Kane Show this week. I think that's channel 126 on Sirius FM radio. I had to go ahead and download Sirius because I didn't have it. But I did, and I want to say thank you for those of you who caught that and listened. And I want to welcome those of you who are here as a result of what you heard on the Clay Kane Show. So welcome to the Pink Robe Chronicles, which is a spiritual gathering, a digital hush harbor where we engage in truth telling and wisdom bearing. I'm sorry, I need to stand. My stuff is falling all over the place. Where we engage in wisdom bearing and truth telling. I am the Reverend Melva L. Sampson, PhD. I am your curator, your digital griot. Some call me pastor, and I am glad to be here with you. Immediately following this live stream, there are those of us who are members of a subscription community where we pay a small fee monthly, where we go directly after this over to a private Zoom to talk back to the text. We have another private chat on Facebook where we have engaged and have created our own kind of even another layer of a digital hush harbor, where we get to engage with myself and each other. And so I'm appreciative of that. For those who are interested in joining us afterwards, I will put the link to join that hush harbor right here in the chat on Facebook. I'll also come over here and put it in the chat on YouTube. If you missed this week's Dogon site conversation that happened between Dr. Mama Itihari Torre and Dr. Renee Harrison of Howard University School of Divinity, you really missed something. And while it is recorded, but it is not a recording that will be shared broadly beyond those who did not register, unfortunately. But I do want to invite you to check out, let me see if I can copy this right quick. I want to invite you to check out St. Paul Community Baptist Church in Brooklyn, New York. I'm pasting here the link to their, that didn't work out. Hold on. I'm pasting here the link to their, there we go. I don't know why it's not. Okay. The link to their events page. They have a host of events coming up this week that I think many of you who follow me and who are members of this community will find very interesting. I know even right now as we're speaking, my brother Matthew Wesley Williams, the Reverend Matthew Wesley Williams, is up to preach there. But that's on YouTube, so you can go catch it right after this live experience or vice versa. But they have a few things happening on this week that I know this community would be interested in. They have a Hush Harbor for Educators that is happening on Tuesday, January 16th at 6 p.m. In their Life Center. They are also having a Sacred Memory Community Bible Study that will illuminate this journey of spiritual exploration, with sacred memory. And I know that Dr. Itihari Torre and others will be there. And so I just want to invite you to consider registering for their events. I consider them a ministry partner, as I do other ministries here, The Gathering, and others of us that do this work. So I also want to remind you on this this Thursday, January 17th, of this Boabab Tree listening session. This listening session, my tongue is heavy. This listening session is open to the public. Registration is not required, and the Zoom link, the Zoom is right there on the bottom of the form. I'll post it again this week and put the Zoom information in the chat so that you'd be able to access it. But this is something you do not want to miss, to have an opportunity to engage in sacred memory. And for us, sacred memory is restoring and restoring, using African cosmologies to restore our imagination, that we might reimagine ourselves, right? And so we are going to be listening to the elders, a time to glean from the elders, from Dr. Yvonne Delk, Dr. Charles Finch, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Velma Love, and Dr. Jeremiah Wright. You want to be present. You absolutely want to be present. And this work is being brought to you by the Preaching Wisdom Sacred Memory for Christian Innovation, which is funded by the Lilly Endowment at McCormick Theological Seminary. I am really proud and just honored to serve on the design team with Dr. Teray and many others who are gathering, who are learning, and who are doing this work. So I want to remind you that that is happening on Thursday, January 17th. And I look forward to seeing you there. Also, want to bring your attention to the film screening that will be happening this Saturday, January 20th at 2 p.m. The film screening that will be happening this Saturday, January 20th at 2 p.m. at Wake Forest University in the Byram Welcome Center. So as soon as you come onto the campus, if you come onto the campus from the Renolda Road entrance, it is the first right. As soon as you come on, it's the first right, the first building on the campus. You make that right, and that is the Welcome Center. I'm excited. This is the first feature-length film that has been produced by the museum, the Smithsonian National Museum for African American History and Culture. It is the brainchild of the Reverend Teddy, of Teddy Reeves, PhD. I don't know if Teddy is a reverend or not, but I think so. Of Teddy Reeves, PhD. And so I am excited to sit and be in conversation with Candace Bimbo, with Kim Moore, myself, and Dean Corey D.B. Walker of the Div School. This is sponsored by the National Museum for African American History and Culture, the Pew Research Center, Wake Forest University School of Divinity, Triad Cultural Arts, and the One Love Festival. So please, I will grab that registration link to place it in the chat before this is over, so that you can be able to govern yourselves accordingly. Actually, let me just go run and get it now before I forget. So that you can have, let me grab it from my friend Candace's page right quick so that you can, boom, okay, so that you are able to, y'all, I need the screen, Jesus. Oh, help me, hold on one second. One second, y'all. I'm trying to get y'all what you need. Actually, shouldn't you just be able to? Okay, so what I might do is just have, all right, here we go. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for those of you who are new here also for your patience. We are gearing up to head on. Okay, here it is, the registration. The registration for the God Talk in-person event, that will not be live streamed, and so you will need to register. It is free, but we request that you register. Ashe, let's see, paste. Okay, listen, all links are in. All announcements have been made. We continue to pray and hold dear in our hearts those of our community members who are dealing with grief, who are dealing with loss. I invite you to continue to lift them up, to hold them in our prayers. Listen, I'm just going to have to hold this phone today because I'm on the struggle bus. I'm on the struggle bus. Forgive me, and please don't let me forget to order this stand like ASAP. Right after the clearing, because this is kind of janky. I want to invite us to continue on with our conversation, our meditation, our sermon from last week, which was Open the Casket. I want us to continue in this vein of the need to open the casket on systems and on people, suggesting that what lies in the casket is vile, is harmful, is unjust. And the way that we take a stand for justice, the way that we commence the journey toward our collective and personal liberation is to not keep quiet, is to not keep silence about systemic injustice and harm. And so I want to admit that I continued, that here we are yet in another week, the second week of 2024. And this week, the news that we received on this week was just as vile for Black women. And I, again, struggled with a text. Struggle because while personally I acknowledge that there are various kinds of sacred text, I acknowledge that we come to that these bodies are text, that I am a text, that the Creator, the Spirit, endows us in diverse ways with inspiration to write, and that these texts can also be considered the words, right? And for me, it is the words. It is not the word. They are often the words because these words come through many. They come through many of us. Each of us have the opportunity to lend ourselves, to lend our ear, to lend our spirits, to serve as a portal for messages to come through, for certain types of messages to come through. Each of us has that opportunity and has that ability to do so. There is a way in which, because we focus on one, my goodness, here we go, Great Spirit. Okay. Because we focus on one, particularly in each tradition, right? At least if you're a Christian, the focus is on Jesus. If you are Muslim, the focus is on the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And we can go on. And I often wonder or think how we might be doing ourselves a disservice by placing this sole focus on one being as the being that comes with sort of one dispensation of enlightenment, instead of seeing the enlightenment that comes and continues to be built upon, that each of us, if you will, are called to be enlightened, are called to do the work, that each of us are called to follow. And in that following, in that awakening, we are then called to testify, if you will, on our own behalf, based on the way in which we are called to follow and the way that we are following. Just stay with me as I walk this thing out. And so because of that, I have to admit and be honest that I not sometimes struggle with one text, struggle because I acknowledge and understand that enlightenment or endarkenment or awareness comes from multiple sources. However, I know that there are many who walk with me in this space, for whom the Bible is their first, their only, and their last source of authority when it comes to their faith tradition. And so as one who represents, who is ordained, who is licensed and ordained in the tradition, I am often attempting to stay, to be present, to stay within, if you will, this realm, because that is the expectation. It's simple and plain because that is the expectation. But oftentimes I am doing so at the, I don't want to say not harm of my spirit, but at the limitation of my spirit. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I'm just going to keep moving in this way. And so, I want to talk a little bit about today, testifying on your own behalf. We have talked about this text before. We talked about this text before under a different title. And again, because I'm always honest with you, I grabbed something because I'm also wanting to be responsible with the care for those who are in my care. Good morning, Pastor Wilson Brown. I know you know. Hey, Soror Tammy, and again, shout out also to my sorors, the Devastating Divas of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated on 111 years, 111, get into it. And so go with me to this text, and I invite you to be nimble enough. I invite you to be, I hope I'm not offending your spirit, Margaretta. I am inviting you to consider this text with me. This text comes from John chapter 8, verses 12 to 18, and then again 31 through 33. Good morning to all of you, to all of you, to all of you. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And for those of you who are just joining, I'm holding my phone because I keep forgetting to order the phone stand. And so I want to apologize to you in advance for the shakiness that is probably going to occur. Okay, thank you, Margaretta. Thank you. This is a dispute over Jesus' testimony, and here are some words. Listen, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world, and whoever follows me, whoever follows me, right there, will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And the Pharisees challenged him, here you are appearing as your own witness, so your testimony is not valid. And Jesus answered, even if I testify on my own behalf, my testimony is valid. For I know where I came from and I know where I'm going. But you have no idea where I came from or where I'm going. You judge me by human standards and I pass judgment on no one. Whew. I'm just getting another download. Wow. But if I do judge, my decisions are true because I am not alone. I stand with the one who sent me. And in your own law, it is written that the testimony of two witnesses is true. I am one who testifies for myself. My other witness is the one who sent me. I want to go back. I want to just go back and read this. When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And the Pharisees challenged him and said, and here you go again. Here you go, appearing as your own witness. Your testimony ain't valid. And Jesus answers, but even if I testify, on my own behalf, my testimony is valid. For I know where I came from and where I'm going. But you have no idea where I come from or where I'm going. You judge by human standards, and I pass judgment on no one. But if I do judge, my decisions are true because I'm not alone, because I stand with the one who sent me. And in your own law, it is written that the testimony of two witnesses is true. So I am one who testifies for myself because my other witness is the one who sent me. I guess this could have been called, who are your witnesses? Who is your witness, right? That's a whole nother sermon. Verse 31, and to the Jews who had believed in him, Jesus said, quote, if you hold to my teaching, did I just cite Jesus' words, Lord? Let me tell you something, y'all's plagiarism. The way that accusations, got me super. To the Jews who believed in him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And they answered him, We are Abraham's descendants and have never been slaves of anyone. How can you say that we shall be set free? Whoo, my goodness. Yes, my Dr. Monica. Jesus says, you don't know me. In the documentary Journey Toward Liberation, it was a doc short that was released in 2014. The Journey Toward Liberation, the legacy of womanist theology, womanist ethicist, the inimitable, the Reverend Dr. Katie Geneva Cannon. We speak your name. Her birthday was just this week. I believe it's on the 8th. We speak your name in this virtual space, Dr. Cannon Ashe. She said the following, quote, being a front runner in a lot of this work, people want to dismiss the truth that I speak as anecdotal. If I don't have a scientific database where I can prove that what I've experienced is true for so many people, then it's not true. So, the epistemological sea of forgetfulness is when people take truth that hurts, truth that goes to the core of the being, truth that goes to the marrow of the bone, and people want to say, if you can't prove it scientifically, if you can't prove it factually, then it doesn't exist, she says. So what I try to encourage people to do is to do that kind of truth that stings, a serpent's tooth, the kind of truth that makes your teeth itch. The truth that causes people to lose their minds up in here, up in here. So even when people call your truth a lie, tell it anyway. Tell it anyway. Testify on your own behalf. Dr. Cannon's words are a perfect entry into this morning's text. In verses 12 through 18, we encounter a dispute over Jesus' testimony. It was not customary to testify on your own behalf. One needed at least 2 witnesses for the testimony to be believable. In the audience are the Jews who believed him, and then there were the Jews who did not. Those who did not believe him are challenging the validity of his identity. I am the light of the world. The Pharisees, the devout followers of the religious code, ask him, how can you say this when you have no proof? Basically, where is the data that proves this? Where are your witnesses? To which Jesus responds in verse 14, my testimony is valid, for I know where I came from and I know where I'm going. Knowing where we come from is key to testifying on our own behalf. Ha, ha, ha. Many of us are on the journey to re-member, to restory, to reimagine, to recall who we are. Many of us, the scripture is John chapter 8, verses 12 through 18 and 31 through 33, Jamisha. Many of us are unable to testify because we are unclear of our origin. I am so thankful for the work of Dr. Renee K. Harrison and the way that she shared about Benjamin Banneker and his connection or his lineage connected to the Dogon people, and the use of Dogon tradition or the site as a necessary process of initiation. And so in this talk that in this journey, that she and Dr. E.T. Hari took us on Friday, we engaged this conversation around sight. Dr. Harrison invited us to think about those in our faith tradition who empowered us, who invited us in, who even shared with us that we had a gift, a gift, and even, if you will, showed us what our path would look like. And in so doing, though, that they also fell victim to their limited sight. That when they were not able, or when they encountered a part of our witness that did not mesh with their socialization, or that move beyond the limitations of their sight, how this particular body, being, or system then caused us harm. And in causing us harm, she says, this is a paraphrase, in causing us harm, then we lost sight. And in our loss of sight, then, this is my addition, in our loss of sight, then our growth was stunted. Then we stopped moving, we stopped imagining, we stopped testifying, we stopped progressing right at the age, right at the space, right at the point when the limit was placed on us. My goodness, today. Right at the point that the limit was placed on us is the point where we stopped testifying. And while we kept moving, and while we keep going, and while we have done some things, and while many of the things that maybe those that the way has shown have happened, she said, there is still a way, if we are honest about it, that we have stopped short because we have not believed our own truth, or because we believed somebody else's truth about us, and because we were not clear on who we were, who we are, whom we are connected to. And so she lifts up Benjamin Banneker as one who understood his lineage and his connection to the Dogon. And the Dogon, as history suggests, were the only, or is either the only or one of the only tribes that were not enslaved, that did not experience being captured or being taken into captivity. The Dogon, according to Dr. Torre and Dr. Harrison, who are citing other works, are familiar, are astute in astrology and in the stars, and in the ways that we use our sight. Just follow me for a minute. We gonna make it all work. And the way that they acknowledge sight. And so, as Dr. Harrison was sharing this work, she talks about, if for those of you who do not know, that it is Benjamin Banneker who is one of the architects, who is one who laid out the plans, along with Lafont and one other, of what we know as the District of Columbia. That it was his genius, it was his role, it was his lens that created these four quadrants of the District of Columbia. And Dr. Harrison went on to share how that when he was tasked with this, how he laid on his back and began to use his sight to tap into his imagination, to tap into his lineage, to look at the stars. The constellation of the stars, and looking at the stars is what gave him the map to lay out the quadrants that would become the District of Columbia. What am I saying, and why am I bringing up Banneker? I am bringing up Banneker because it is an example of even what Jesus is engaging here with the Pharisees, who are unclear about who he is. But Jesus is connected to a lineage. Not only is Jesus connected to a lineage, but Jesus is saying that my testimony, what I say about myself, is true because the witness that I have is the one who sent me. And I just want to suggest on this morning that we need to return to the one who sent us, not return to the ones who told us about who we are, but return to the one who sent us, that we might be reconnected with a lineage, that in reconnecting with that lineage will affirm who we are. And when we are affirmed, when we are clear, when we know, then we don't run the risk of falling victim to the challenges of those with limited sight. Dr. Cannon says, even when people call your truth a lie, tell it anyway. I'm going to say testify anyway. Jesus provides us with an example of what it means to stand in your truth and to tell it even when folks doubt you, even when folks shade you, even when folks are too wounded to acknowledge it, even when folks are too insecure to hold your truth, even when folks are too jaded to believe in your truth. Jesus says, I know who I am and I know where I'm going. Your truth should be told from a position of assurance, not from a stance of trepidation. When Mamie Till Mobley said to the mortician who asked her, who begged her to let him touch up her son's body. First, he asked her to not have an open casket. And then he said, let me touch up his body so that it would be, so that folks would be able to take seeing it. And Mamie Till says, no, leave the casket open and let the world see what they've done to my baby. There is a level of courage that is required for you to stand in your truth. When you are testifying, Jesus here is not a mealy mouth testifier. He is not, chalk mouth full of cotton. He is standing flat footed. He is speaking his truth. And for many of us, and rightfully so, there is a way in which our fear is as a result of what we've seen others and what we've seen systems do to others and how it has obliterated them. But what does it mean, though, to really get down in your bones and understand where you come from, the calling that is placed on your life, to be clear about your level of sight and how you see, and to know that if nobody else goes with you, that therein lies the one who has sent you. And you might be saying, but Melva, none of this is really practical. This is kind of esoteric. This is kind of, this sort of kind of mysticism. This is kind of like otherworldly. None of this will really stand today, because what happens when I testify on my own behalf? How will I move? How will I make it? How will I live from my day to day? And this is why testifying is not an individual task. And this is why testifying is a collective act. Yeah. And this is why Mama E.T. Hari says that the community is strong enough to hold your truth. Because if I know then that my truth is being held, then encompassed in my truth are my needs. And comfort in my truth are the needs for my day today. Yeah. Yeah. And so then, this notion of telling our truths, telling has to be from a position then of assurance and not from a stance of trepidation. You must own your truth, and the only way you can own it is when you are secure in your own identity. Meaning, you must speak it from your lens. You must speak it from your view. Come on, somebody. You must share it from your own social location. And friends, there it is. The ways in which we have been socialized to kind of minimize our social location so that we might be able to have a message that meets the masses. But in minimizing our social location, then somehow we minimize our lens and our message. Hence, many who are on the journey to retrieve a particular lens. So for me, Melva Sampson, I am an African-centered, or in the words, I love the way that Reverend Portia Williams Gates speaks it. I am an Afro. I used to just say I'm an Afro-centered, Afro-futurist, womanist homiletician, but I love her wording as an Afro-Christian futurist. I am an Afro-future Christian. I am an Afro-Christian futurist, womanist. I'm a practical theologian. When I look at the text, any text, my body as a text, Black women's literary text, the sacred text, which Black women's literary texts are also sacred, I am always looking at it through a lens that lifts up first my lived experience as a Black woman, my lived experience as a Black woman in these United States, my lived experience as a Black woman, a part of the African diaspora. I am always looking at it first to consider, to retrieve, to get, to see the lens beyond sort of this Western Eurocentric notion that has been forced upon me, but wanting to see underneath the text. I bring to it what we learn is the hermeneutic of suspicion. I am always looking to see where and who is silent. So in my testimony, yes, God, in my testifying, yes, Reverend Tracy, telling our own gospels that we might be saved. And this is what Dr. Cannon is basically saying, that the truth is our gospel, and we have to tell it so that we might be saved. What are you suggesting, Melva? I'm simply suggesting that could it be, my soul stepping soul roar, Dr. Sabrina did, could it be that we've given just a little bit too much of our agency over to one Savior? My God. Hey, Woo, don't leave me today, y'all. Don't leave me today. Could it be? Could it be? Could it be? Could it be that we are, because of our need and our desire to be rescued, and rightfully so, the need is, the need that we hand over all of our agency, and in handing over our agency, we then fall victim to only seeing this one way, only seeing this one being, only seeing this one portal. I want to step over into something. I want to give a trigger warning. I want to talk about death by suicide and unlifing oneself. Opening the casket, testifying on our own behalf, as we are calling for a ceasefire in many countries in the world. I also want to call a ceasefire on Black folk broadly and a ceasefire on Black women specifically. Be it the Black church And in the words of Dr. Ebony Marshall Terman, who has spoken and writes that gender discrimination has no place in God's church or the academy, I am clear that we are not safe anywhere, that Black women are not safe anywhere. And so on this week, we read about another Black woman. At least it came to my inbox on this week. Yet another Black woman in the academy, Dr. Antoinette Bonnie Candia Bailey. We speak your name. According to reports, Dr. Bonnie died by suicide and left a manifesto. I don't call them notes, at least not in this sense. A manifesto indicting the leadership of her university, citing all of the infractions that she'd experienced at the hands of inept leadership. And it led me back to another manifesto that was provided to me. And I want to read a part of this, and I want you to hear this in agency. I'm going to read you a reflection of mine, because this is also a part of testifying. And I want to invite you to stretch just a little bit, because this is going to be hard for some to accept, to hear. It's possibly going to trigger some of you. Some of you might log off. You might be like, now Melvin done lost her mind. I haven't. Not at all. I'm very clear. But I want to invite you, and if this is a time that you need to go take care of yourself, I want to invite you to do such. Yes, Reverend Angie, we've all been saying we ain't safe for years. Absolutely. No, I have gone as far as I can down this road, end quote. This sentence at the end of a manifesto written by a sister sojourner and co-doctoral student in 2013 shifted the way I view death by suicide. She named this section of her story Excursus, agency, wherein she detailed her decision to withdraw from the program as a necessary intervention from a, quote, soul-destroying hazing process designed to stamp out the remaining light in my soul, end quote. She wrote, quote, to gain entry into this club would be a Pyrrhic victory, end quote. Our sister died by suicide just before she made sure that her story would be told in her own words. The Black women who remained, I included, in the program were stunned. We were grieved. We were angered even. We read the document over and over, and sometimes alone, and sometimes as 2 or 3 gathered on the phone. We were not okay. This recent news of Dr. Bonnie's death by suicide has brought me to reflect on this agency of this kind of testimony, of the agency of tapping out for those who consider checking in, but they already gone as far down the road as they could. Death is never an easy occasion, especially when unexpected and self-inflicted. The decedent then becomes a specimen whose public and personal life is dissected from strangers to family in search of answers. And in the age of social media, folks begin going through a person's life or a person's post to look for signs and cries for help. Speculation then has its way with us, and our theorizing turns to regret and helplessness because we were unable to save the departed. As a Christian minister, the message of the gospel then is about being saved from the harmful actions of empire that left unchecked infiltrate individual and collective devotion to God. Some Christians deem death by suicide as a defiant act against God because for them, God is the only entity that can sanction death. Hence, some Christian sects see death by suicide as antithetical to eternal rest. And to be clear, I do not believe that death by suicide is a sin. As I continue to learn from my friend's words, I see it in some ways as a display of agency, as a final testimony. We have then normalized the act of saving as convincing people that despite living in a world where they experience harm, invisibility, and neglect, that God's love and the love of family and friends and sometimes fans or justice will always abound toward them. The hard truth is that sometimes that is just not enough. Sometimes the trauma is really too much to bear. Sometimes one's spirit seeks final resolve. And sometimes the only way to save someone is to honor their decision to let go. This is not what we've been socialized to accept. We've been socialized to believe what the scriptures declare, quote, that there is nothing too hard for God, end quote. Instead of indicting the folk or even indicting God, or at least our human construction of God, we indict those who couldn't wait for God or wait for systems to heal and to provide relief. Our friend, my friend. Our friend, my friend, blessed us with the gifts of final thoughts. We are clear of her whys and respectful of her resolved. We checked in, we advised, we consoled, and in a time of her choosing, she took the sting from death. No longer would she wait for it to come, but she greeted it on her own terms. And here's what I acknowledge, and I speak your name, Aisha Renee Curry. And here is what I acknowledge, what I have had to the only way for me to really not be immobilized from my inability to just do day to day, because this has arrested my thoughts, is that I don't want us to get caught up into the way folks tell a story about Dr. Candia Bailey and instantly zoom into, well, there were some mental challenges that she spoke to. I don't want us to go there. What I want us to go into is that the system and persons were the imbalance. That was the imbalance. That was the just. That was the injustice, if you will. And she left, I'm told, this manifesto documenting so that folks would be clear, that folk would be indicted and hopefully removed, that systems would be changed, that she herself had reached a point where her testimony was one of return. Now that is hard for us on this side to take and to handle, because we see it as that we couldn't get to her fast enough. We two things can be true at the same time. The system is a foul. That there needs to be a ceasefire on black women in the church, the academy, and in every other profession and vocation. Abso-freaking-lutely. And though there is agency that every person has agency. And when folks make a determination, when folks use their agency in a way that is not amenable or agreeable to us, then it is not them who are required. It is us, because they have essentially told their truth. My sister Aisha took the sting from the system, and in her manifesto, she named names at Emory University. In her manifesto, she named names and then simply said, I choose not to fight this fight any longer on this side in this way. Even when people call your truth a lie, Dr. Cannon says. This is that Africana lens. This requires us not to process this in a way that would not allow us, in a way, hold on, let me back up, that processes then, like this Eurocentered knowledge validation process that Dr. Gay was a victim of, that Dr. Candia Bailey was a victim of, that let's not forget Dr. Joanne A. Epps, who died on the stage. Speak the name of Dr. Arinthia Montague. Speak the names of Dr. Gay Byron. And while these other people did not die by suicide, there is a way in which this sort of slow, tedious, nagging way that systems continually pull the life from us, because we have to contort our bodies and our minds in these ways. We have to engage in hierarchical Olympics so that we can receive external validation from committees, so that we can be able to earn a type of place in the process that says either we believe that we're protected, which we're not, that we are protected, or that we deserve to have this seat, instead of building our own tables, instead of seeing that these institutions are no longer viable. Hence, friends, this is why Jesus came. Come on in here, Matthew Wesley Williams. Jesus came because there was another institution on its way. Jesus was instituting a different way of being, that the old model was questionable. Yeah, I know in the old way, you needed two witnesses. I needed another person, but I'm telling you that the new way is, all I need is my ancestors, and all I need is the one who sent me. This process alludes to, it's most visible within this academic peer review processes, and it's most visible in some of y'all's preaching. This process contends that knowledge is only valid when it is approved by particular bodies with particular credentials from particular institutions. This is like the position that the Jewish religious intelligentsia held, that there was no epistemic equity. The truth could only be true if it was delivered in the way they'd been taught to expect it. Telling the truth, then, testifying on your own behalf, activates authenticity. Embracing your truth, your lens, is agency. It allows you to be authentic and genuine in your actions, in your thoughts, and in your words. When you're telling your truth, baby, you don't have to be like nobody else. Jesus. When you're telling your truth, you don't care what other folks are doing. Yeah. When you're telling your truth, you are clear and flat-footed. Yeah. Yeah. It helps you to stay true to your values and your beliefs. The success of the transatlantic slave trade is visible in whose values the enslaved assumed. Come on, Dr. Cal, when the student statements are weaponized. Come on. The success of the transatlantic slave trade is visible in whose values the enslaved assume. The disconnect from specific values like collective work and responsibility and cooperative economics, the theft of creativity that results in clouded purpose, the lack of belief that we are mutually and inextricably linked has led us to the sea of epistemological forgetfulness. Who are you without what a particular faction of the world calls you? Who are you without the handle on your name? My God. Dr. Irie asked that question a few months ago. Telling the truth, I'm going to have to end it here because we're going over and pick this up during the week. But telling the truth also provides self-awareness because it enables you to better understand your thoughts, your emotions, and your motivations. Clear intentions make you more accountable to yourself and our community. Clear intentions also provide clear directions. I'm going to share this. I was talking to Mama Itihari about an idea I had. And because my truth, I'm always trying to figure how I can help folk. Or what, not help because I'm the savior, but how I could join in collective work and responsibility. That's what I'm going to start saying. How I can assist in mutual aid. And I told her that I wanted to have, what would it look like? Because there are so many in our communities that are in need of work. And what would it mean for us to gather people that we know have hiring power, and then for me to go live with people who were looking for positions, and for them just to, say what they were in the need of, what the kind of positions they were looking for. Some kind of virtual job fair is basically what I was talking about. And Mama Itihari said to me, "Oh, Melva, daughter," as she usually says, quote, "that is such a charitable thought." And this is what she said. Here's the wisdom. She said this, though. The challenge is that folks have to have faith in their developed competencies. Oftentimes, folks want to work where they are actually not competent to do so. Melva, well, what does that have to do with telling your truth? Baby, because when you live and testify in your truth, then you stand, as y'all say, on the business of operating within your realm. Now, this doesn't mean folk can't dream. This just means folks are not stuck in what other folks think about them. Folks are not stuck in somebody else's truth about them, which is really not their truth about themselves, right? And so folks don't find themselves in positions where they are not equipped to engage. Jesus. So it is the impression that we have to have clear intentions. I'm going to end it here and I'm going to head over to the clearing. Come on, President Sims. Yup. Because if a black woman is doing work, there's a tendency by some, especially white men, to think that what we do is easy. I'm ending right there. I'm not even going to finish my that part right there. Oh, if she could do, I know I could do this. That ain't nothing. That's easy. Yeah. Okay, real quick. I don't want to leave y'all hanging. Real quick. We're headed over to the clearing. Real quick. Let me jump to this verse 31, 32. If you hold my teachings, then you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth and it will set you free. Here, Jesus turns his attention away from his theological adversaries, but toward the Jews who believed in him. Now he ain't even wasting time on those who don't believe in him. He's turning to those who say they do believe in him. The writer is presenting an intense debate between the Jews and the Jews who don't profess and the Jews who do profess in Jesus. One commentator writes, quote, the liberating power of the truth is unknowable apart from being Jesus's disciple, which in truth depends on one's relationship to Jesus's word. The words. Okay. The truth and freedom that Jesus promises are not abstract principles, but are like light and life, bound to these words. For Jesus, the truth is the presence of God. So how can the truth make you free? For Jesus, freedom is the result of knowing the truth, but when for Jesus, freedom is the result of knowing the truth, but when the Jews repeat Jesus's words in 33b, they misquote him, leaving out the reference to truth. Instead, they interpret Jesus's words as if they themselves were a misreading of Jewish heritage. So why should you testify on your own behalf? For authenticity, for relief from burden, for emotional healing, for self-acceptance, for empowerment, for retrieval of your lens, for retrieval of your sight. Tell the truth. Testify on your own behalf, not anyone else's, but your own behalf. Ashe, your own behalf. That's the word, y'all. That's the word. We're headed over to the clearing now. If you want to join or you need to rejoin, whatever you need to do, there's the link right there. We're going to talk back to the text.